Welcome to Future Print Virtual Summit Insights. We're doing a few sessions of these over the summer, just sort of updating the community with sort of insight from various experts and innovators. And we have with us today Stephen Buchanan, who is Inkjet Business Manager at Kao Collins, one of the leading innovators in ink for inkjet in various applications. Recently, you've written, Stephen, a really popular blog that we had on futureprint.tech called Expediting the Transition to Digital Print, which is kind of factoring in the sort of current scenario and crisis we're all enveloped in. But actually, you're suggesting with the title, it's accelerating an interest in digital print. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. First, I'm glad to hear the article was so well received. But wow, 2020 has been a crazy year. I don't think any of us planned for the coronavirus pandemic, but I think now we're just kind of all adapting and finding new ways to kind of navigate the new normal now. So when you look at how has Inkjet been impacted by this? I think one of the things we've seen is the flexible packaging and labels industries are definitely booming right now. We saw, a rapid increase in terms of just consumer goods being bought from local grocery stores. And I think a lot of that was, most of the society was closed during lockdown. So, consumers were just trying to stockpile goods. And so what happened on the inkjet side was, a lot of those packaged goods, were then being purchased, which led to increased ink volume sales. So that was definitely something that's very interesting. And I think we're also starting to now see kind of a dramatic shift from consumers trending towards e-commerce. Amazon, FedEx, these companies, shipping is very important right now. And consumers are really trying to stockpile all of these goods. So I think that's been very interesting. And, also the label, in terms of label and packaging industry, we've seen, food, pharmaceutical, medical, all of those industries are definitely booming in inkjet now, especially with this emphasis on health and safety. This is just, like I said, kind of becoming the new normal. And I think if you look across the market, some other industries that have been impacted, you look at wide format and signage market. There's definitely less banners, less signage being printed, due to the COVID. And a lot of this was due to closure of retail stores, no trade shows. So a lot of the wide format printing has really kind of struggled to survive, but it's proven resilient and it's adapted in a lot of ways. Just going out in public, I've seen different printers and different interesting signs, like the stay 6 feet away, stand here. You'll see floor decals, vinyl stickers, signs in the bathrooms and in windows, just kind of all related to safety and health awareness. And I think that's really kind of allowed, the wide format guys to forge a new path forward and really make up some volume that they were losing elsewhere. So I think the innovation has been really impressive by the wide format guys to really adapt to this new, COVID-19 world that we're living in. Another industry that's been impacted, the direct mail industry. If there's a pandemic or, issues with the economy, I think one of the first things large companies will take a look at it is cutting their budget for advertising. People start to get tighter with their money. So when you look at the direct mail market, I think that definitely took a hit during COVID because companies weren't spending as much money on advertising. So you think of all the pamphlets, brochures, high-speed direct mail that a lot of people are used to receiving each week. A lot of that, went by the wayside because companies were trying to consolidate their resources elsewhere. So the direct mail certainly took a hit, but I do expect it to bounce back. We are adapting to COVID-19, and yes, it is the new normal, but I think all the industries are now, finding a way to adapt. So it's been pretty cool.
Yeah, and so when you're saying about these different sort of changes, are you thinking, is most of your business in the US or is it Europe as well, or is this kind of some differences with the US? I hear US is moving out of the crisis probably economically quicker than perhaps Europe is. I don't know whether that chimes with what you see as well in the market.
Yeah, it's been interesting. Obviously, I think Asia was hit first, and then to the Americas. But we had customers in Europe that were really struggling for kind of before it hit the U.S. So I think Cal kind of did adopt that we're all in this together philosophy. And a little empathy does go a long way. We want to show our customers, hey, we're here to support you. There were certain cases where a distributor called us, and they said, hey, we can't supply an end user with your ink. Can you support them because we're shut down? So of course we kind of gave that a top priority, got the ink manufacturer, got it shipped directly to the end user. And obviously that's a unique circumstance, but I really like it using it as an example because it shows that we're collaborating, we're working together. So it is, in the grand scheme of things, this is a lot bigger than Inkjet, but we do realize like this is our business, this is the market we serve. So anything we can do to help the customers, that's priority number one. Is just support the customers, especially during a pandemic, because I think you can tell everyone's a little uneasy. You never know how businesses are going to trend. So I think just being there for your customers and showing support is huge during this time.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree with that. And expediting the transition. So do you kind of thematically, at least with your article, you're kind of suggesting that inkjet and digital print generally has become more attractive, or interest in it has accelerated? Are you seeing that within packaging mainly, or across the board?
I would say across the board, but I like to focus on labels and packaging because that is really the hottest topic in the industry right now. What we're finding is, because the consumer goods are flying off the shelf, I think brand owners are really trying to get creative with their packaging schemes. They're really trying to we're seeing this proliferation of SKUs. We're seeing so many different types of labels. And when you think of that, proliferation of SKUs, that's really where it comes into play, where inkjet is so beneficial, because it's allowing integrators and label converters and packaging converters to print so many different SKUs for different brands. And I think that's where this acceleration to inkjet is really coming to the forefront for sure.
Yeah, and has it been able to deliver more, create more locally, or is that having a factor, or is it mostly because it's fragmented short run that retailers are interested in, just multiple different things?
Yeah. The short runs are becoming huge with inkjet, but a lot of things, I do like customers to know it's not just short run stuff. I mean, there's long run inkjet runs as well that can be very profitable. But yes, for sure, the short run is definitely starting to take off. And I think it is, yes, it's global, but, it's also market specific too. So if you just look at the US, if brand owners are trying to tailor, items, let's say labels or packaging, they might look at different sectors within the US, like the Pacific Northwest, the Midwest, the South, the Northeast. I would imagine that the marketing campaigns are different probably in all of those areas. I think the craft brewery, market is one we really like to look at because you can just see, it's fun to see all the different types of labels on the shelf and say, hey, some of these things are being done via inkjet, and it's very cool. People aren't just drinking the Budweisers and Miller Lights and those kind of things. It's actually expanding out. And when those labels are printed with inkjet, it's really, really cool. The other thing we'll see, wine bottles is also very popular, and you can understand how that's also regional customization as well. Canned goods, soaps, sanitizers. I mean, there's a huge rush for, cleaning supplies and lotions, soaps, hand sanitizers. And a lot of that stuff is being done with inkjet now. And we've been fortunate enough to see some of the results firsthand, just in close collaboration with our label converter partners. They've been, gracious enough to show some samples to us, and it's been amazing. It really has. Extremely impressive. And we've definitely seen an uptick in the ink volume consumption for sure. And, of course, we're happy about that. But I think, sales numbers aside, just the bigger picture, we're happy to be able to support, the economy and support people during the pandemic. I think that's really what it's all about is, all of us need to find new ways within our industry to innovate and really find ways to support each other, because we're only going to get through this together. And I obviously realize that ink is a small portion, in the grand scheme of things, but, everyone really needs to work together in our respective fields to come together.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think it's about helping people, isn't it? And I think one of the keys to all of this is that actually the being action oriented and being kind of focused on the change, moving with it, and doing as much as you can, because I think, like, they talk about that sort of light at the end of the tunnel. I think it's about optimism as well, isn't it? It's about kind of going, actually, to get to that light, we're going to kind of not ignore what's around us, but actually realize that there is a way out. It will come through it.
Absolutely.
Be different. What do you see? What do you sense will be a permanent change once this kind of process of lockdown easing kind of reaches the other end? Do you kind of think, what do you, I mean, it doesn't have to be just related to ink, just a general comment really. What do you think we'll see a permanent change? Lots of things have been affected, of course, pretty much everything. So yeah, in the way we work, or the way we interact with customers, or the way we deliver our product. Do you see any permanent changes taking place?
I do. This is an interesting one, because I think for Kao, one of our core philosophies is closeness with the customer. This is really how we've gotten so good at inkjet development. Is we're constantly visiting customer sites. We're talking with commercial people, business people, also people in sales. But I think some of the most interesting conversations you come by are the ones you talk to the press operators, because when you talk operators, the guys that are running your ink every single day, they really have a lot of interesting information to share in terms of how does your ink perform? What are the pluses? What are the minuses? And that, I think, as a chemist or as an engineer, you take some of that feedback, whether it's positive or negative, and then you make improvements on your product. Because, let's face it, if you're not in the business to innovate, then you're not going to be successful. So, I think that's something that Cal takes pride in, is that innovation. And the way we focus on that innovation is really by, working closely with the customer. So, of course, right now I miss more than anything jumping on a plane to go see our customers. I do, but we've had to find ways to adapt. So really, I'd say, the best thing we can do now is these face-to-face web interactions. We have FaceTime calls, Microsoft Teams, all different formats used to have meetings, and really, to provide assistance, support, troubleshooting, all those things, because, customers, especially now, they need to feel supported. So I think that closeness element is very critical. So we've been doing a lot more, troubleshooting phone calls and web interactions to kind of maintain that closeness. And I think, just taking a broader approach, I do think that companies are probably going to start trending towards remote working. I think that does make sense. To have some social distancing barriers kept in place. I do think that that's important. But ultimately, I don't hope that, I understand we need to make, adapt to the new normal, but I hope that, there is that light at the end of the tunnel, because like I said, I want to get back to visiting our customers in person. We're starting to see here in the US, we're starting to see restaurants, bars, retail stores, all of these things are starting to open back up. And I think, that sense of optimism is really important for people, and everyone's very excited because, people have been cooking meals in their homes for 3 months. And I think they get to a point where they're excited to just go out and have a nice dinner. And also, feeling that sense to want to support local restaurants. I think that feel of buying, spending locally is really going to become important. And I think that's going to bolster economies all over the world if people can really focus on kind of going out, staying local, and spending your money to these small businesses that could really use people's support, especially right now.
Yeah, interesting. No, I think you're right. That localization is both practical and on a more ethical level are going to become kind of key. Yeah, superb. Well, thanks so much for that, and we'll catch up again with you soon. So, thank you very much. Cheers.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Marcus.
Thanks.